There are no accidents in this universe. There are no random meetings, no coincidences, no meaningless glimpses of inspiration. If you are hearing these words right now, it's not because you stumbled upon them by chance. It's because you were called. Because a deeper part of you, older than time, wiser than intellect, and richer than gold, has orchestrated this exact moment to remind you of something extraordinary. Massive wealth is already yours. Not will be, not someday, not if you work hard enough, but now, already within. You see, wealth is not something you chase. It's not something out there, waiting for you in some distant future. It is something you awaken to. It is something you claim, not by force, but by belief. Your outer world is nothing more than the echo of your inner assumptions. When you assume that you are already rich, when you feel it with the certainty of breath in your lungs, when you become that which you desire inwardly, the world bends itself to reflect your conviction. Most people are trapped in the illusion of time. They say, one day I'll be wealthy. They live in a constant state of becoming, never being. And so they wait and wait and wait, not realizing that every time they declare wealth as something coming, they push it further away. The truth is shocking in its simplicity. You must feel as though you are already in possession of what you desire, not in pretense, but in deep knowing, in inner embodiment. Let me ask you this. Have you ever imagined something so vividly that your heart raced, your palms sweat, your spirit soared? That wasn't fantasy. That was creation. That was your inner self touching the frequency of a new reality. The wealth you saw wasn't imaginary. It was a glimpse of the real you. The you that has always been rich. The you that doesn't need to struggle to prove worth, but simply needs to accept it. Wealth begins in consciousness, and consciousness is what you are, not what you use. You are not a body trying to manifest money. You are awareness, projecting a world based on your most dominant assumptions. And if those assumptions shift, so will the world around you. Do not ask, when will my life change? Instead ask, what do I believe to be true about myself? Because that answer is the blueprint. If you believe you are limited, poor, unlucky, that will reflect. But if you dare to believe, in the silence of your being, that you are already aligned with abundance, that you are a magnet for opportunities, that you are chosen for prosperity, then prepare yourself, not for hope, but for arrival. Massive wealth is not waiting to be earned. It is waiting to be recognized. You are not poor trying to become rich. You are rich, awakening from the dream of poverty. Right now, take a breath and affirm this silently within yourself. I don't chase wealth, I am the vibration of wealth. And as you speak it, not from desperation, but from deep recognition, you'll feel it. The shift, the stirring, the power. Because the moment you say yes to your wealth within, the world will rush to agree with you. You've seen this message for a reason, and the reason is, it is already done. Wealth does not begin in the hands, it begins in the mind. The world has conditioned us to believe that being rich is measured by how many digits sit in our account, by how many properties we own, or how many luxury items we can afford. But true wealth, the kind that flows without resistance, begins long before any of that. It begins in consciousness. What you are conscious of being determines the quality of your life. You could hand $1 million to someone with a poverty consciousness, and within a short time, they would find a way to lose it all. Conversely, someone who has awakened to the state of wealth in their mind, no matter their outer situation, will attract, create, and multiply prosperity in every direction. The great misunderstanding is this. People believe they need wealth to feel abundant, when in truth, they must feel abundant in order to experience wealth. It's backwards thinking to believe that money gives birth to a rich mindset. The rich mindset gives birth to money. And this mindset cannot be faked, forced, or borrowed. It must be inhabited, like a home. You must live in the feeling of being wealthy, not someday, now. The moment you declare that wealth is a future event, you exile yourself from its presence. To live in the state of wealth is to walk, speak, think, and act from a deep inner knowing that you are already in possession of everything you require. Not because your current outer reality screams it, but because your inner reality whispers it. And that whisper is louder than any evidence to the contrary. Those who live in true abundance are not waiting for external validation. They are not needing the world to agree with them. They move from the inside out. They create from the invisible, and the visible follows. Money is not the origin of wealth. It is a symptom, a natural byproduct of the inner state you maintain. If you are constantly worried about money, you are not poor because you lack money. You are poor because you are maintaining the consciousness of fear, lack, and uncertainty. And that very frequency repels the abundance that is otherwise flowing freely. The universe does not respond to what you beg for. It responds to what you believe you already are. This is why two people with the same job, same salary, same resources can live entirely different financial realities. One may always struggle, feeling like there's never enough, while the other somehow always feels taken care of, supported, and even sees opportunities where others see limits. Why? Because one lives in a consciousness of limitation, and the other lives in a consciousness of expansion. Wealth is a lens. You either view life through the eyes of abundance or the eyes of restriction, and whichever lens you choose, life will reflect it faithfully. So if you desire massive wealth, the shift must begin in your state of being. You must wake up every day and choose to remember who you are, not a beggar hoping for blessings, but a creator radiating confidence. Stop saying, "I want to be rich." Start saying, "I live in wealth now." It doesn't matter if your surroundings disagree. It doesn't matter if your wallet feels light. Those are echoes of old beliefs. Your new declaration creates a new cause, and in time, that cause becomes a visible effect. When you live in the state of wealth, it's not a matter of if the money shows up, it's only a matter of how. Every event, every outcome, every blessing or blockage you experience in your life is not the result of chance, luck, or random fate. It is the result of a quiet, persistent assumption that you carry within. What you assume to be true about yourself, the world, and your place in it becomes the law that governs your reality. You may think that your thoughts are just fleeting inner dialogues, but in truth, they are blueprints, and every single assumption is like a command to the universe. Make this real. Assumptions are not idle daydreams. They are convictions that shape the energy you emit and the circumstances you draw. If you assume that money is hard to come by, you will encounter a world where opportunities constantly escape your grasp. If you assume that others are always more fortunate than you, your experiences will reflect that imbalance. If you assume that no matter how hard you try, wealth will always be just out of reach, then that is the exact experience you will encounter. It will not be a punishment, it will be a fulfillment. The universe does not argue, it simply agrees. But if you shift your assumptions, everything changes. When you assume that you are meant for greatness, not because of arrogance, but because of divine truth, your world starts to reconfigure itself around that belief. When you assume that wealth flows to you easily and consistently, your actions, your energy, your decisions begin to align with that truth. You meet the right people. You find unexpected blessings. You see doors open where none seem to exist, not because you forced anything, but because you believed. This is why so many people try to manifest wealth and fail. They're affirming abundance on the surface while assuming lack underneath. They repeat positive words, but their emotional core remains unchanged. The power is not in what you say once. It is in what you expect again and again. Your assumptions are like roots, and the fruit you bear, be it poverty or prosperity, comes from those hidden roots. Change the root, and the fruit will follow. You can test this in your own life. Begin observing your reactions to situations. Notice how often you say things like, "That's just my luck," or "I knew this wouldn't work," or "money always slips away." These are assumptions disguised as casual thoughts, but they are powerful scripts, and your life is acting them out perfectly. Now imagine replacing those lines with new assumptions. "I always land on my feet. Wealth loves me. Everything is working in my favor." Say it until it no longer feels like a stretch, but a certainty. When your inner world becomes rich with empowering assumptions, Your outer world has no choice but to reflect it. You won't need to chase money or manipulate outcomes. You'll simply be the person wealth gravitates toward, because your world is not the cause, it is the mirror, and it will always reflect back what you deeply believe. If your life has been stuck in limitation, it is not because life is limited, it is because your assumptions have been. But the moment you rewrite those assumptions, the moment you dare to expect something greater, the outer world must shift to meet your new command. That is the law, unchanging, precise, perfect. Your assumption is the master architect of your reality. Change the blueprint and watch how fast your world rebuilds itself. You have imagined wealth, you have spoken it, you may have even visualized the car, the house, the freedom. But what gives power to all those things, what bridges the gap between the invisible and the visible, is feeling. Not forced emotion, not empty excitement, but a genuine deep inner conviction that moves through your body like truth. Feeling is not optional. It is the lifeblood of manifestation. It is what makes your assumption alive. Everything you desire already exists in a higher dimension of reality. The moment you form the image in your mind, it is already created, but it remains in the unseen until you feel it into your present experience. That's the law. Thought initiates, feeling materializes. Most people are stuck in mere mental affirmation. They say, I am wealthy, but they feel broke. They say, money flows to me, but they feel anxiety every time they look at their account. This inner contradiction cancels the power of their declaration, because the universe listens to what you feel, not just what you say. Imagine this. A person declares they are confident, yet their body language shrinks, their voice trembles, and their energy whispers insecurity. What do you believe, their words or their vibration? In the same way, when you affirm wealth but feel lack, you send a mixed signal, and energy cannot deliver clarity when the channel is confused. Your world cannot reflect wealth until you first feel it. But when you begin to practice the inner art of assumption with feeling, everything changes. You don't just say, I am rich, you become it. You imagine yourself in the experience. You see your hand holding the gold pen as you sign the property documents. You feel the leather seats of your luxury car, hear the engine purr, smell the newness. You let your body believe the scene as though it were happening right now. That is not fantasy. That is spiritual rehearsal. That is creation in motion. Feeling brings life to imagination, and life obeys feeling. When you feel something with sincerity and repetition, your subconscious begins to accept it as true. And the moment it's accepted as truth, it becomes your identity. Your identity then governs your behavior, your opportunities, and your responses. It rewires your world from the inside out. What you truly feel becomes your truth, and your truth becomes your reality. This is not about emotional extremes. You don't need to jump up and down, shout in joy, or manufacture happiness. You simply need to enter the mood of your wish fulfilled. Even a quiet sense of calm confidence, a gentle inner smile, a peaceful knowing, these are powerful frequencies. Feel the reality of being rich as you go about your day. Let it walk with you like a secret only you know. Don't wait for evidence. Let the feeling be the evidence. You do not need permission to feel rich. You do not need money in your hands to feel the wealth in your soul. And once you master that, money cannot stay away from you. It must match your internal vibration. Your feelings are your magnetic field, and wealth responds not to desperation but to embodiment. You cannot fake this. You must live it within. So, if you've been visualizing and affirming without results, ask yourself, have I felt the end as real, or am I just hoping it will come true? Hope delays. Feeling creates. Shift from hoping for wealth to feeling its presence now. When you do, your world will catch up to your new emotional truth. There is a dangerous lie that most people believe, and it's this, that wealth is something that will happen to them in time, that they must wait, prove themselves, struggle through hardship, and eventually they will become rich. But that mindset keeps them forever chasing a future that never arrives. Because the truth is, you don't wait for wealth, you become it. Waiting creates distance. It implies lack. It tells the subconscious mind that what you want is somewhere far away, not accessible now. And whatever you declare as far will always stay far. Time becomes your enemy when you place your wealth in it. Every time you say, "Someday I'll be rich," you are unknowingly declaring that today you are poor, and today is the only day the universe responds to. It knows no calendar, it only mirrors your now. So, what happens when you stop waiting, when you stop speaking in future tense, when you step into the state of wealth as if the delay is gone and the result is already yours? A transformation begins. Your thoughts shift, your posture changes, your choices elevate. You no longer act from scarcity, you act from abundance. And when you act from abundance, abundance finds you. This is why the most powerful way to manifest wealth is to be the version of yourself who already has it. Ask yourself, how does the wealthy version of me walk? Think, speak. What choices would they make? How would they treat time, money, and opportunity? Embody that person today, not as pretense, but as identity. You are not pretending to be rich. You are remembering who you truly are and shedding the illusion of lack. The version of you who lives in a mansion, who donates millions, who creates without financial fear, does not wait. They do not beg, wish, or plead. They are not watching the clock. They know who they are, and their world reflects that knowledge. If you want your outer reality to change, you must claim that identity now. This is not about reckless spending or irresponsible behavior. It's not about mimicking the habits of the rich. It's about embodying the state of wealth. That state is calm, that state is generous, that state is strategic, that state is not worried because it knows supply is infinite. When you begin to act and think from that place, not someday but today, you collapse the timeline between desire and manifestation. And the world responds fast to identity, faster than effort, faster than hustle, because the world is not reacting to your grind, it is reflecting your being. You cannot outwork your self-concept. But when your self-concept is rooted in wealth, the results become inevitable. People ask, but what if I don't feel rich? How can I be it? The answer is, start small, but start now. Begin with your imagination. Begin with your posture. Begin with your self-talk. Don't wait for perfect conditions to shift your identity. The identity comes first and the conditions follow. Even if your life doesn't reflect wealth yet, be the exception. Be the one who walks into the storm with the calm of a millionaire because you know your reality is catching up. The most misunderstood concept in wealth manifestation is the idea that you are trying to attract money as though it is something separate from you, something you must chase, beg, or manipulate into your life. But money is not something external that you must pull toward you like a magnet. Money is simply energy, and energy responds to identity. You don't attract money. You reveal the version of yourself where money already flows freely, naturally, and consistently. This is why all true wealth begins in the realm of the unseen. When people try to attract money from a place of desperation, they send a signal of lack. Their vibration declares, "I don't have it yet." And so, they continue to experience more not having. But the one who understands spiritual law no longer focuses on what is missing. They become the embodiment of abundance itself. They no longer ask, "Where is the money?" Instead, they say, "Let me become the version of myself where money is normal." In doing so, the money appears, not because it was summoned, but because it was always present and now finally revealed. Imagine a seed buried in the soil. The fruit already exists within it in potential form. It doesn't need to attract sunlight or nutrients. They are already part of the system. The seed only needs to awaken and grow into what it was always designed to be. In the same way, the wealth you desire is not coming from the outside. It is already encoded in your spiritual DNA. The process of manifestation is not calling something in. It is remembering who you truly are and allowing what has always belonged to you to rise to the surface. The more you try to chase money, the more you push it away. But when you rest in the awareness that money is an extension of your consciousness and you become the version of yourself who naturally handles, receives, and multiplies it, your world shifts without resistance. The people, circumstances, and opportunities that match this internal awareness begin to reveal themselves. This is why manifestation is never about effort in the outer world first. It's about alignment in the inner world. You must become the person who says, "Of course the money came." You must train yourself to see every bill paid as evidence of abundance, every act of giving as a sign of wealth, every breath as proof of divine support. In doing so, your relationship with money shifts from one of fear and separation to one of trust and revelation. You are not lacking wealth, you are merely discovering how to see it more clearly. There is no amount of hard work that can outperform a poor self-concept. But when you shift your concept of self from someone trying to become rich to someone who is simply revealing the wealth within, everything flows. You stop trying to get money. You start allowing yourself to become the person who naturally has it. And the moment you do that, you realize the truth. You were never poor, you were just unaware. You were never broken, you were simply misaligned. All the wealth, all the success, all the support you desire is already around you, waiting for you to stop trying and start revealing. Because the real manifestation is not money, it is the identity that makes money inevitable. Everything you now experience in your outer world once existed as a thought, a feeling, or a silent belief within you. Before the house, there was a vision. Before the business, a dream. Before the money, an idea. All of it was once invisible, until it wasn't. And that invisible place from which all things emerge is the imagination. Your imagination is not childish fantasy. It is the womb of your rich reality. It is the sacred place where form is given to formless desire. Most people use their imagination against themselves. They imagine bills piling up, opportunities slipping away, people letting them down. They rehearse failure in their minds and wonder why their lives reflect struggle. But the awakened soul knows this: whatever you consistently imagine, you fertilize. Whatever you water with feeling becomes real. Your imagination is not a playground. It is a workshop, a canvas, a throne. Wealth begins in the imagination because the mind is the gateway to all that exists. The subconscious cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined event and a real one. When you imagine yourself wealthy, walking into your dream home, traveling in first class, giving generously without fear, you are not pretending. You are instructing the subconscious to accept that version of you as truth. And once accepted, it works tirelessly to make it so. Do not dismiss imagination as mere mental play. It is sacred technology. It is how you rewrite the script of your life. Close your eyes and see it. Your ideal day, your bank account overflowing, the ease of financial freedom. Don't just see it, feel it. Smell the new leather of your luxury car. Hear the sound of your voice as you bless others with abundance. Taste the richness of the meal you now afford with ease. The more real it becomes in imagination, the faster it takes shape in form. Your imagination doesn't ask for logic. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't care if your current situation disagrees. That's the power. It frees you from the chains of circumstance. You are never bound by what is. You are always free to create what could be. And creation always begins in thought. The thoughts you nurture today become the experiences you walk through tomorrow. People who manifest wealth effortlessly are not lucky. They are skilled imagers. They see what others don't see. They believe what others call foolish. They live from the inside out, not the outside in. And because they make wealth familiar in the mind, it cannot help but become familiar in the world. The moment you stop treating imagination like escape and start treating it like command, your life changes. You stop reacting to the old and start rehearsing the new. You stop doubting and start designing. You realize that everything you desire is first born in your ability to hold the image and carry the feeling until it solidifies. Your imagination is divine. It is sacred. It is limitless. And the wealth you seek is not beyond your reach. It is within your reach, the moment you create it, in the womb of your inner world. The world is not waiting to give you permission. It is waiting to mirror your vision. We've been taught to see wealth as something tied to labor, to sacrifice, to endless physical hustle. From the time we are young, we are conditioned to believe that money comes only through toil, through competition, through trading time for value. But this is a limited and distorted view. True wealth, lasting wealth, elevated wealth, It is not born from the sweat of your brow alone. It is born in the spirit. It is not a matter of physical struggle. It is a spiritual act of claiming what has always belonged to you. To claim wealth spiritually is not to reject hard work, but to place it in its rightful place. Work is an expression, not a requirement for worth. The wealth you are seeking is not a reward you earn from the universe. It is an inheritance you awaken to. And like any spiritual inheritance, it is received through alignment, through belief, through identity. Not by trying harder, but by seeing more clearly. This is why some people struggle for decades and remain financially stuck, while others seem to prosper with less effort. The difference is not talent nor opportunity. The difference is spiritual posture. The wealthy soul does not ask for permission. They don't beg the universe for a chance. They stand tall in their inner world and declare, "It is already mine." That is spiritual authority. That is the posture that moves mountains and magnetizes abundance. When you say, "I am wealthy," you are not speaking an empty phrase. You are activating divine law. You are announcing to every cell of your being and to every force of nature that you are no longer playing small. You are no longer negotiating your worth. You are no longer dancing with doubt. You are declaring that the same source that breathes life into your lungs has also provided more than enough for you to thrive. And in that moment of inner certainty, you become unstoppable. It is spiritual to be rich, not just in finances, but in freedom, in generosity, in impact. When you are rich in spirit, money becomes a tool, not a master. You use it to heal, to elevate, to liberate, not to prove your value. And when your wealth flows from this place of spiritual rootedness, it is stable, it is magnetic, it is joyful. You no longer fear losing it because it is not something external. It is an expression of your inner wholeness. Claiming wealth is also an act of defiance. It is saying no to the lies you were told about scarcity. It is breaking generational beliefs that tied holiness to poverty. It is standing against the illusion that you must be small to be safe or silent to be spiritual. You are not meant to shrink. You are meant to rise. You are not meant to suffer endlessly. You are meant to reflect the abundance of your Creator. When you claim your wealth, you are not sinning. You are fulfilling your design. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the more spiritually aligned you become, the more material wealth becomes a reflection of that inner truth. You don't chase money, you embody wholeness. And from that wholeness, money flows naturally because wealth is drawn to spiritual certainty the way rivers are drawn to the sea. So stop grinding from fear. Stop living like a servant to a world that was meant to serve you. Stand tall, speak with authority, think with clarity, move with peace, and let wealth become not something you fight for, but something you claim because it is yours by divine right. Now you understand. The reason you're here, reading these words, feeling the energy between every sentence, it's not an accident. It's not just another piece of motivation to scroll past or forget. It's a moment of remembrance, a divine interruption, a call to wake up, not to some distant dream, but to your present reality, your true identity. Massive wealth is already yours. Not because you earned it through suffering, not because you proved yourself worthy by pleasing others, but because you were born with it within you. It was woven into your spirit before you ever took your first breath. And all the lack, all the delay, all the limitation, those were illusions you picked up along the way. They were never you. They were never true. You've spent long enough trying to earn what was always meant to be received. You've played small, hoping someone would notice. You've waited for permission, prayed for validation, begged life to give you a sign. Well, this is it. This is the moment your soul chose, the moment the veil lifts, the moment you realize you are not becoming wealthy. You are remembering that you already are. There is no need to chase, no need to strive, only the need to surrender to the truth that your wealth exists now, within you, around you, and ahead of you. The words you speak, the feelings you carry, the images you hold, these are the tools of the spiritual millionaire. They shape the field, they command the unseen, they build your world. If today you choose to believe not in what your eyes show you, but in what your spirit knows, then everything changes. Because wealth does not respond to the desperate, it responds to the decided. Decide now, not tomorrow, not when you have enough. Decide that you are already rich and act from that, speak from that, move from that. Let your life no longer be a story of pursuit, but of embodiment. Let your words reflect certainty. Let your presence reflect power. Let your imagination stretch beyond your past and anchor itself in your destiny. You are not here to survive. You are here to expand. You are not here to repeat the cycle, you are here to break it. So breathe in deeply, as if wealth were air. Walk forward, as if the ground were gold. Speak boldly, as if lack were a forgotten language. And remember always, if you're seeing this, massive wealth is already yours. Claim it, live it, reveal it. To dwell in the fulfilled desire is not an act of pretending. It is the only reality worth living. The world as you know it is not fixed. It is shaped, moved, and reborn by the images you accept as true. The moment you assume something to be real, not with strained effort or desperate yearning, but with calm inner certainty, you begin to reshape the world around you. It doesn't matter what your senses tell you. It doesn't matter what the facts appear to be. They are shadows, echoes of former beliefs. The true cause lies in the unseen, what you dare to assume. You do not wait for the evidence. You create it. And how do you create it? By acting as if it is already yours. Not outwardly, not in forced performance, but inwardly. In the sacred theater of the imagination, that invisible realm is where all things begin. It is there within that the seed is planted. And as you nourish that seed with attention, faith, and emotion, it grows quietly, steadily, until the world must yield and conform to its shape. To act as if is to walk through the valley of lack with the eyes of abundance. It is to feel peace while the storm still rages. To celebrate before the miracle has reached your doorstep, and to rest in the assurance that what you've asked is already done. You do not plead, you do not chase. You know. That is the secret. That knowing is the key that unlocks the door. Let no one convince you that imagining is weak or foolish. Those who laugh at your inner certainty do so because they are prisoners of sight. They believe only in what they can touch, weigh, and measure. But those things are slow. Spirit moves faster. Thought travels beyond walls. Belief dissolves barriers. And imagination, when sustained with faith, becomes fact. Every time you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you turn your back on the former things. You let them fade. You abandon the narrative of one day and step into now. There is no greater discipline than to live from the end. It requires boldness of spirit. It demands that you ignore appearances, silence the inner critic, and look only toward what you have already claimed. Speak from it, think from it, feel from it, not about it, not toward it, from it. You don't reach for the dream as if it were out of your grasp. You speak with the voice of the one who already holds it. You sleep in the bed of answered prayer. You walk with the posture of the fulfilled. The law may not understand it, but the law does. The law responds. It echoes back what you present to it. So if your desire is wealth, live as the one who has it. If it is love, feel what it is to be cherished, wanted, and chosen. If it is healing, rest in the peace of being whole. Do not wait for the body to change or the bank account to fill before you feel the joy. Feel it now. Let the feeling be your proof. Let the joy be your evidence. When you remain in that state, not occasionally, but consistently, your outer life must bend, which has no choice. The moment you dwell in the fulfilled desire, the bridges of incidents begin to form. People move. Events align. Ideas come. Doors open. The mind will call it coincidence, but you will know it was your assumption made visible. You will understand that you are not reacting to life, but life is reacting to you. The mirror reflects the image you hold inside. And when you persist in the image of fulfillment, nothing can stop its emergence. This is not fantasy, it is the truest way to live, to walk by inner sight, not outer sight, to choose your state and remain faithful to it, to rehearse it, feel it, wear it, speak from it, until the world reflects it so clearly you forget you ever doubted. So now, this moment, choose the scene. Enter it with full emotion and remain. Refuse to come down, refuse to waver, for the one who dwells in the fulfilled desire no longer wishes. They are. And that makes all the difference. To understand that feeling is the foundation of reality is to unlock the great secret behind every transformation in life. The outer world, with all its forms, relationships, circumstances, and events, is not an independent realm acting upon you. It is a mirror, reflecting the internal state you live in, the feeling you consistently occupy. Every moment you spend in a particular emotional atmosphere, you are setting in motion an unseen process. You are announcing to the universe, without words, who you are and what you expect. And the universe responds with fidelity. It does not judge, it does not question, it simply mirrors. You may speak affirmations with your lips, but if your heart is heavy with doubt or fear, it is that feeling which takes root. You may dream of a better life, but if your inner atmosphere remains soaked in unworthiness or anxiety, that dream remains distant not because it is unreachable, but because you have not shifted your state. It is not thought alone that creates. It is the feeling attached to the thought that carries it into reality. Thought is like a seed, but feeling is the water. Without emotion, the idea is dry, lifeless. When you mix an idea with intense, lived emotion, when you feel as though it is happening now, you breathe life into that thought and it begins to grow. Feeling is not just emotional reaction, it is creative cause. To say, I feel rich while worrying about your next bill is not true feeling, it is verbal pretense. But to sit quietly, to breathe slowly, and to feel the deep satisfaction, the calm, the security of wealth already yours, that is the foundation upon which riches begin to gather around you. To say, I am loved while obsessing over rejection is merely noise, but to feel cherished, secure, desired, even in silence, that feeling reshapes the world around you until love must arrive to match your inner truth. You are always dwelling in a feeling, whether consciously or not. Most people live in reaction. They see something they dislike and they feel fear or resentment. They see something they envy and they feel lack. And so their life becomes a cycle of unwanted reflections. Events triggered by unconscious emotion. But when you awaken to the truth that feeling is the cause, you stop reacting and begin creating. You begin choosing the feelings you want to dwell in. You realize that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a creator of it. This is not about suppressing negative emotions. It is about choosing your dwelling place. You are not asked to deny what has happened, but to decide what shall happen next. If you wish for change, you must move inwardly to the place where the change has already occurred. You must enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is not enough to hope. Hope is a distant emotion. It says, maybe one day, but feeling fulfilled now? Before the evidence. This is power. This is the secret. Your senses will scream otherwise. They will present facts, pointed at the bank statement, the silence of a lover, the ache in your body. But if you believe those facts are the final authority, then you have given your power away. You are not here to be ruled by the senses, but to master them. You do this by accepting a new truth, not because the outer confirms it, but because the inner has decided it. When you dwell in a feeling long enough, it hardens into fact. The world will eventually echo your inner state with striking precision. People often ask, how long must I feel it? The answer is not in days or weeks. It is in intensity and persistence. Feel it until it becomes real to you. Feel it until it becomes more familiar than doubt. Let it become your emotional home. And just as one who lives in a particular house can describe every room without thinking, so too should your inner state become second nature. When the feeling of your fulfilled desire becomes as natural as your breath, the world cannot help but yield to it. Do not chase signs or search for validation. They come only after you have made the inner change. The feeling of already having is what magnetizes the evidence. Do not wait for something to change in the world to give yourself permission to feel better. Feel better now. Choose to feel secure, joyful, abundant, or healthy. Not because of what's around you, but because of what's within you. That is the shift. That is the true movement. When you feel it deeply, even while nothing appears to have changed, everything has already begun to change. Let the feeling be vivid. Don't make it a vague idea. Step into it. Imagine the texture of your new life, the smells, the sounds, the emotional undertones. Feel the weight of the success in your body, the lightness of peace in your chest, the excitement of love in your heart. Live in the emotion. Rest in the knowing. Walk in the reality that you have already received, and do so without needing anything outside to confirm it. The confirmation will come, but it is not your job to summon it. Your job is to assume the state and remain. There is no limit to what can be made real through feeling. You are not too late. You have not missed your chance. You do not need more time, more evidence, more effort. You only need to feel differently. Choose the feeling now and nurture it. Return to it when doubt arises. Let it be the air you breathe and the rhythm of your heart, for in that feeling your new world is already unfolding. To live from the end is not to deceive oneself. It is to align with the deeper truth that all things are created twice, once in the unseen and then in the seen. The average person lives as a seeker, always reaching toward what they believe is separate from them. They say, when I have the money, I'll feel secure. When I find love, I'll feel whole. When I succeed, I'll be confident. But the law of life does not function this way. It is not have, do, be. It is be, do, have. The state of being comes first, and from it flows the actions, and from those actions emerge the results. You must be it inwardly before the world can reflect it outwardly. Living from the end is the discipline of assuming the identity of the one who has already arrived. You must step into the role before the world assigns it to you. Just as an actor wears the emotions of a character, you wear the emotional signature of your fulfilled desire, not for a moment, not as a wish, but as a dwelling place. This is not pretense, not fantasy, but creative embodiment. When you feel from the end, you are not acting as if something might happen. You are resting in the certainty that it already has. The difference between wishing for something and living from its fulfillment is vast. Wishing places the object of desire outside of you. It perpetuates the idea of distance, delay, and lack. But living from the end collapses that distance. It says, it is already mine. I am already there. And because you believe it and feel it and think from it, life rearranges itself around your new center. You are no longer moving toward the goal moves toward you. Circumstances bend, people show up, ideas appear, not because you chase them, but because you've already claimed the state from which they must emerge. This is why many remain stuck in cycles of effort and disappointment. They continue to affirm what they do not believe. They speak of abundance while feeling impoverished. They visualize success while identifying as a failure. And the law responds not to their words, but to their state. Life cannot give you what you want. It gives you who you are. And who you are is defined not by your name or history, but by your inner atmosphere. The thoughts you entertain, the emotions you dwell in, the identity you assume when no one is watching. To live from the end, you must ask yourself not, how do I get this, but who must I be to already have this? Then become that version now. Adopt their tone of voice, their posture, their attitude. Feel what they feel, think what they think. Do not wait for the world to change before you allow yourself to become them. The change in the world only comes after you make the change in self. The old state may try to pull you back with memories, with facts, with fears, but remain unmoved. Stay loyal to the new identity. Live from it in thought and feeling until it becomes your new natural. This is the art of spiritual movement. You are not walking through physical space to reach your desire, you are shifting states. You are mentally relocating from one assumption to another. The moment you assume the end and refuse to leave it, the bridge of incidents begins to unfold. People may call it luck, coincidence, even divine intervention, but you will know the truth. You will know that you entered a new reality by claiming it as already done within. The temptation will always be to check, to look, to measure progress. But this only reveals disbelief. The seed planted does not need to be dug up every day to see if it is growing. It needs trust, light, water, and time. So too does the state you assume. Once you live from the end, let it be, let it grow. Speak from it, plan from it, act from it. Every decision you make should come from the identity of the fulfilled. What would the successful version of you do? What would the loved version of you say? What would the healed you believe? Let these answers guide you. Doubt is the destroyer of creation. It pulls you out of the end and drags you back into the middle. But doubt has no power except what you give it. When it arises, do not fight it. Simply return to the end. Feel again. Remind yourself again. Affirm the truth again. And most importantly, feel the joy again, not because the world gave you something, but because you already received it in consciousness. Those who master this principle become creators in the truest sense. They no longer live by effort, but by assumption. They are not driven by lack, but drawn by vision. Their inner world becomes the workshop of reality, and their outer world merely the canvas that reflects what they have already painted within. There is no striving in this process, no begging, no manipulation, only being the one who already is. And when you are tempted to say, "But I don't see it yet," remember that sight follows belief, not the other way around. You do not see it and then believe. It is because you believe truly and completely that you will see it. This is the reversal of the world's thinking. But it is the doorway to everything. To live from the end is to walk in faith, not blind faith, but creative faith. The kind that knows what the eyes do not yet show. The kind that builds the invisible bridge across the gap between now and the manifestation. You do not wait at the edge of the cliff hoping for the path to appear. You step boldly, and the ground rises beneath your feet. All that you desire is already yours in the realm of consciousness. It waits for you to claim it, not later, not someday, but now. It waits for you to step into its reality and refuse to leave. When you think from it, speak from it, feel from it, the world around you must shift. It has no choice. For reality cannot help but mirror the man who has already become what he once desired to be. To ignore appearances and persist in the assumption is one of the greatest challenges of conscious creation, and yet it is the most essential. The world will offer countless images that seem to contradict the reality you have chosen within. It will tempt you with facts, statistics, rejections, and delays. These appearances will call to you, begging for your agreement, asking you to affirm them as real and to abandon the unseen reality you have dared to believe in. But you must remember, the world you see is not final. It is old news. It is the echo of a former state, a reflection of what you previously accepted as true. To give it your attention now is to breathe life into the past. The truth is that everything you observe in the outer world is already fading. It was born from a former belief, a previous feeling, a yesterday's assumption. To change your world, you must stop reacting to what is and start responding to what you have accepted within. The law is not broken, it is not confused. It is simply reflecting the momentum of past assumptions. But that momentum can be redirected, and it begins the moment you persist in a new inner reality, regardless of what the senses claim. To persist in the assumption is to remain unmoved. It is to walk through storms with the inner calm of knowing the sun is already shining in the realm of cause. It is to receive a letter of rejection and still feel the success. It is to see an empty bank account and still feel the wealth. It is to be alone and still feel loved, not as an act of delusion, but as an act of supreme clarity. You know that appearances are deceptive, temporary, and subordinate to the state you now occupy in consciousness. The senses are trained by the world to be your master, but they are meant to be your servant. You do not live by sight, you live by assumption. What you assume to be true, even when no evidence supports it, is what begins to manifest. But this requires discipline. It requires you to withdraw your emotional response from the facts around you and place it fully on the reality within. You no longer get excited or fearful based on what the world presents. Instead, you ask, what have I accepted as true about myself? What am I feeling to be real in this moment? And from there, you adjust, not the world, but your inner state. When you change your assumption, it may take time for the outer to reflect the new inner truth. But in that waiting, you must not waver. The most common mistake is to plant a new belief, then dig it up daily to see if it is growing. Or worse, to dig it up because nothing appears to be changing fast enough. You must understand that persistence is not passivity. It is not waiting with folded hands. It is an active inner commitment to remain in the chosen state, regardless of how long the world takes to catch up. There is power in indifference, not the kind that ignores life, but the kind that remains unshaken by illusions. When you learn to ignore the fear, the noise, the logic of the old world, and instead listen only to the quiet knowing within, you gain authority over life itself. And from that authority comes the transformation of your circumstances. The world may test your resolve. It may throw its finest illusions at you. But if you hold fast, if you remain in the assumption of your fulfilled desire, it must surrender. It must bend. The world cannot resist the one who refuses to come down from their inner mountaintop. You are not required to explain yourself to others. You do not need to convince anyone of your new state. You simply live in it, quietly, faithfully, and with full acceptance. If someone calls you unrealistic, smile. If they show you why it can't happen, thank them for their opinion and return inward. Your power lies not in debating the facts, but in replacing them. You replace them by persisting in the new assumption until the world forgets the old and begins to mirror the new. There will be days when doubt whispers loud. There will be moments when the world seems louder than your faith. And yet this is where creation is tested and proven. In those moments you remind yourself, the outer has no power except what I give it. The real work is always internal. To feel successful even when failure surrounds you. To feel abundance even when everything says lack. That is creation. That is mastery. And that is where the shift begins. You must decide once and for all that your feelings are not negotiable. You will feel what you choose to feel, not what the world demands. You will persist in the inner truth until the outer world bends to match it. You will no longer be a victim of appearances, but a deliberate author of what is to come. The old life may try to call you back, may whisper memories of pain or failure, but you do not answer. You are no longer that version of yourself. You have stepped into a new role, and every time you revisit the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are reinforcing that role, carving it deeper into the substance of your being until it becomes your new default. This persistence builds momentum. At first, it may feel like pretending, but as you return to the assumption over and over, it becomes natural. It becomes normal, and when it becomes normal, it becomes visible. Life begins to show signs, small at first, then larger. The bridge of incidents unfolds, and you find yourself moving through events you never could have planned, all aligning to your new state. But even then, you do not cling to signs. You remain focused on the state itself. You continue to dwell in the feeling, and from that dwelling, all else arises. This is the quiet revolution, not a dramatic upheaval of force, but a gentle, unwavering return to truth. Every time you ignore what is and affirm what you've chosen to be, you are participating in this revolution. You are bending reality, not by effort, but by faith. Not by force, but by identity. And in time, the world will follow. It always does, because the world is not your master. It is your mirror, and it will show you faithfully whatever you persist in being. The imagination is not merely an escape or a playground of idle dreams. It is the very substance of creation. Every form you see in the world, every building, every invention, every relationship, every achievement first existed in someone's imagination. What you behold as reality today began as an unseen picture, quietly nurtured and believed in by someone who refused to let go of it. Imagination is the womb of the world. It is where all things are conceived, shaped, and brought to life. You are not bound by the facts of your environment. You are bound only by the boundaries of your imagination and your willingness to believe in it more than you believe in what your eyes show you. Imagination does not wait for permission. It does not ask whether what it sees is possible. It simply creates. It holds a vision of the desired reality, and when it is coupled with feeling and belief, it becomes alive. It moves beyond fantasy and steps into the realm of causation. You are never a prisoner to circumstances. When you understand the power of imagination, you can sit in the quiet of your room and construct a world so vivid, so emotionally charged, that reality begins to conform to the image held within. There is no creation without imagination. You do not stumble into new experiences. You imagine them first. You may not always be aware of it, but every dominant experience in your life today is the echo of some inner imagery you once entertained, whether consciously or unconsciously. The mind paints the picture, and life provides the canvas. You are never reacting to life, you are reacting to your own projections. What you accept and feel to be true within imagination eventually appears before you as form. Many people use imagination reactively. They imagine worst-case scenarios, problems, betrayals, losses, sickness, and then they are surprised when life delivers them. But those who understand the law use imagination deliberately. They do not allow the mind to wander aimlessly. They guide it, focus it, and fill it with scenes that reflect the world they wish to inhabit. They do not daydream passively. They live within the dream as if it were already real. They smell the air of success, hear the voice of their beloved, feel the keys of their new home, and do so with the certainty that what is felt inwardly must one day appear outwardly. Imagination fused with feeling becomes the creative act. Without feeling, it is a sketch without color. But once feeling enters, the image begins to pulse with life. That is why it is not enough to simply visualize. You must feel what you imagine. The touch of joy, the ease of security, the thrill of love, the warmth of peace. These emotions wrap themselves around the picture and bring it into motion. What is impressed upon the subconscious mind through repeated imaginative acts, especially when accompanied by feeling, is what the world begins to reflect. You must dare to believe that your inner world is more real than what the senses suggest. You must give more weight to what you have seen and felt within than to what others may call fact. This is not madness, it is spiritual wisdom. The world will call you unrealistic. Let them. For every so-called realist is only describing what has already come to pass. But the one who imagines is touching tomorrow. The one who imagines is shaping what others will later call history. To dwell in imagination is not to escape reality. It is to command it. It is to understand that you are always a step ahead of what the world shows you. Imagination is your workshop, your temple, your sanctuary. It is where you go to revise what was, create what will be, and sustain what is becoming. You may sit silently and picture your desire, but if you enter that image with feeling, if you walk through it, speak in it, feel it as your present home, you have performed a sacred act. You have moved into a new state, and that state must express itself. Imagination is not a tool of hope, it is a tool of knowing. Hope waits, imagination lives. And when you live in imagination, your world responds. It begins to echo back to you the tones of your inner song. You may imagine once and feel a shift, but if you return daily, morning and night, to the scene of your fulfilled desire, you solidify the image. You strengthen the bridge between the seen and the unseen. You walk the path of inner certainty, even when the outer seems unchanged. It does not matter how long the journey appears to be. Imagination is not bound by time. What you see inwardly now can appear suddenly, with no warning, once the belief is firm. Often it will arrive in ways you never expected. You are not responsible for the how. You are only responsible for the inner vision and its nourishment. Life will take care of the rest. The bridge of incidents will unfold without your effort. The doors will open, the people will come. But all of it begins in the unseen, where your true power resides. You must protect your imagination from contamination, doubt, fear, criticism. These are the thieves that rob your inner world of its creative potency. Be mindful of what images you allow to grow. Every thought is a seed. Every inner scene is a blueprint. Let no idle fear take root. Replace it with a new image. Revise it instantly. Live in the state of the ideal, and the old must fade. The most beautiful truth about imagination is that no one can stop you from using it. No one can enter your mind and steal your vision. No circumstance can block your inner access. You are free, utterly free, to create within as you choose. And in that freedom lies your salvation. If the outer world feels cold, go inward and build warmth. If it feels chaotic, go inward and create peace. You are not stuck. You are not helpless. You are the artist of your world, and imagination is your brush. Every time you close your eyes and see what the world cannot see, you are writing the next chapter. Every time you feel joy when there is no cause, you are planting the roots of new creation. Every time you refuse to let go of the image, even when the world mocks you, you are declaring your mastery. And the world, though it may resist at first, will bow. It will yield. For it has no choice but to follow the laws that govern it. And imagination, when fused with belief, is the highest of laws. Your inner state is not a private experience locked away in your mind. It is a magnetic force that silently directs the events, people, and conditions that surround you. The world you live in is not separate from you. It is an expression of you. What you hold within, the emotional atmosphere you rest in most frequently, is shaping everything you call your life. You are not reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. It is responding constantly and faithfully to your inner conversations, assumptions, expectations, and self-concepts, whether you are aware of it or not. You are always commanding your outer world by the inner state you consistently occupy. You may believe that you are waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, or the right person to appear. But the truth is that all those things are waiting for you to become the right version of yourself. Life does not give you what you want. It gives you who you are being. If you are being someone who feels overlooked, you will continue to experience neglect. If you are being someone who feels abundant, you will experience supply. The outer world has no independent power. It is a mirror, and the image it reflects is drawn from the state you inhabit in consciousness. That is why changing your actions alone is not enough. You can say the right words, do all the right things, follow the correct routines. But if inwardly you still feel like a failure, unloved or unworthy, life will echo that hidden feeling. The true transformation happens not at the level of doing, but at the level of being. You must change the mood within before the scenery without can change. You must assume the feeling of the desired version of yourself and live from it, consistently and unapologetically, until it becomes your new normal. This is not about forcing or manipulating the external. It is about relaxing into the awareness that you have the power to choose how you feel, how you see yourself, and what you accept as true. Once you make that inner decision, the world begins to reconfigure itself. You don't have to fight your way to success, love, or peace. You align with those things by becoming their emotional counterpart. The change begins in silence, in the privacy of your thoughts, in the stillness of your assumptions. And once your state changes, reality follows. There is no escaping this law. Every experience, no matter how big or small, has its root in a state of consciousness. You cannot outwork a poor self-image. You cannot outrun feelings of fear and lack. You must go to the root. You must sit quietly, observe your inner world, and ask, what am I dwelling in? What state am I returning to each day, regardless of what I say or do on the surface? Am I still walking in the memory of rejection? Am I still reliving the emotions of betrayal or shame? Or have I decided firmly and finally to walk in the newness of the person who has already received what I once longed for? It takes courage to shift your state because it means releasing familiar patterns, even if those patterns brought you pain. There is strange comfort in the known, even when it doesn't serve you, but nothing changes until you dare to feel differently. You must declare that you are no longer available for the state of lack, sorrow, or victimhood. You are no longer available for the emotions that defined the former version of you. Instead, you choose peace. You choose joy. You choose fulfillment, not because the world gave it to you, but because you are the source. This shift is quiet, but it is powerful. You begin to think new thoughts, not forced affirmations, but genuine expressions of your new identity. You speak to yourself differently. You walk differently. You begin to expect goodness, and not in a desperate, hopeful way, but in a natural, confident way. Your energy changes, and people respond to that change without knowing why. Opportunities come, ideas appear. What once seemed stuck begins to move, not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped pushing and started aligning. Your inner state is a frequency, and the world responds to the station you're tuned to. If you're constantly tuned to worry, fear, and impatience, then what you attract will match that static. But when you tune into gratitude, assurance, and worthiness, you begin to receive what resonates with those higher states. This is not magic, it is law. The unseen realm is more obedient than the seen. The moment you shift internally, things begin to happen, often quietly at first, then unmistakably. Remain aware that challenges may still arise. not because your new state is weak, but because the old state may try to return. Memories will whisper, triggers will appear, the world may seem to test you, but do not waver. Stand firm in the new state. When you feel tempted to return to old thoughts and feelings, remember that every time you stay loyal to your new identity, you are solidifying it. You are reinforcing the bridge between where you are and where you desire to be. It is not enough to visit the new state occasionally. You must live there. You must make it your emotional home. This means checking in with yourself throughout the day. It means noticing when you drift into old fears or self-doubt and gently but firmly choosing a better state. This is the work. This is the power. And once it becomes your lifestyle, the changes around you will be so profound, so aligned, that you will look back and wonder how you ever believed the world was in charge. You will understand that you were never waiting for the world to give you permission to change. You were waiting to give it to yourself. And the moment you did, everything around you had no choice but to respond. Because your outer life is not created by effort alone. It is created by the silent, persistent command of your inner state. When you understand this, when you live from this, you no longer beg for change. You become the change. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer hope, you know. And in that knowing, life bows. For it must follow the one who leads from within. The world you see around you is not final. It is not fixed. It is not immovable. It is a mirror, alive and responsive to the vibrations of your inner state. If you walk through life thinking that miracles are distant, occasional, reserved for the few, then you have misunderstood the nature of reality. Because miracles are not earned, they are aligned with. They are not chased, they are attracted. And the key lies in the most sacred command your imagination has ever been given. Act as if. To act as if you are a magnet to miracles is to rearrange the entire theater of your inner world. It is not wishful thinking. It is not blind hope. It is the knowing that what you long for is already present. And your task is not to chase it, but to become the version of yourself who naturally receives it. Do not ask, where is my miracle? But rather declare, I am the field where miracles gather. This shift, subtle to the eyes of the world, is monumental to the powers that shape your life. When you act as if you are a magnet to miracles, you carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with divine assurance. Your energy speaks before your words ever do. Your thoughts begin to align with possibilities rather than problems. You stop repeating the language of limitation. You no longer say, maybe it will happen. You say, it is happening, and I am ready. You no longer hope with fear in your voice. You trust with peace in your bones. This is not delusion. This is creation. Every miracle you have ever heard of began as an invisible seed planted in the soil of belief. Someone, somewhere, dared to live from the end, dared to walk through their day as if the breakthrough had already happened. They didn't need evidence. They became the evidence. They didn't need proof. They embodied the proof. Your job is not to convince the world of what you believe. Your job is to become so deeply fused with your assumption that the world has no choice but to reflect it. When you walk in faith, the unseen bows to your courage. When you move in gratitude before the miracle appears, you summon it into your experience. When you smile at the sky as if your prayer was already answered, the heavens respond to your signal. Many will say, I'll believe it when I see it. But you know that to wait for the world to change before you do is to miss the truth of your power. You don't see it because it's real. You see it because you made it real. You magnetize the miraculous by refusing to dwell in doubt. You pull it to you by aligning your inner dialogue with the reality you seek. And even when nothing around you confirms your faith, you walk as though you already dwell in answered prayer. Every moment, you act as if you are a magnet to miracles. You are radiating a frequency that draws all things necessary for your fulfillment. The right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. They begin moving toward you. Not because you begged, not because you forced, but because you became magnetic. You made your heart the home where miracles come to rest. So walk today as if the phone call is already coming, as if the door is already opening, as if the healing is already unfolding. Do not worry about how. The how is not yours to manage. The how will come to the one who is ready to receive. Prepare yourself not with anxiety but with joy. Because when you truly understand that you are the center of your universe, you stop reacting and you start directing. Act as if you are already walking in favor. Act as if the light is already shining upon you. Act as if everything you touch turns to gold, not because of ego, but because of alignment. Because the version of you who believes, who dares, who expects, is the one who receives. To embody the state of the miracle already fulfilled is to claim with boldness what the outer world has not yet dared to acknowledge. This is not merely imagination, it is creation. When you adopt the consciousness of the thing desired, when you begin to live and move and feel from the place of already having, you call forth that reality into the visible. It's not enough to simply wish or hope. You must become the person for whom the miracle is natural, expected, and unquestioned. The world around you is shaped not by what you beg for, but by what you inwardly accept as true. And this truth need not have evidence in the physical. The evidence is your feeling. The proof is in your assumption. What you consistently assume with faith becomes your experience. This is not theory, it is law. It is spiritual certainty cloaked in invisible movement. Every fulfilled desire began first as an imagined state, fully embraced, fully inhabited, long before a single stone moved in the outer world. You must dare to walk differently. You must dare to think from the end, not of the end. There is a vast difference. Thinking of your miracle leaves it at a distance. It is always something out there, something that might happen someday. But thinking from the miracle places you inside its reality, where you begin to make decisions as if it were already done. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You feel differently, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Let the world remain unchanged for a moment. Do not demand immediate transformation. Instead, let your inner world become the seedbed of your future. When you take on the feelings of one who has already received the miracle, you shift timelines. You step into a new version of yourself. This version doesn't doubt, this version doesn't plead, this version knows. And that knowing is magnetic. You are not waiting for the miracle to make you believe. You are believing, and that belief is what births the miracle. If you continue to say, once I see it, I'll feel it, then you have reversed the process of creation. You must feel it to see it. And that feeling is not just an occasional glimpse, it must become your dwelling place. You must make the inner assumption your permanent home, not just a weekend visit. This is not pretending. Pretending is hollow. This is alignment. This is surrender to the truth of your higher self, the self that already lives in the miracle you desire. If you are seeking healing, you must feel the vitality, the strength, the freedom of a healed body, even while your senses argue otherwise. If you are seeking abundance, you must adopt the ease, the confidence, the generosity of one who already walks in overflow. Even if your current bank account is whispering otherwise, you do not shrink to match the world. You expand to transform it. Your senses are the last to report the news. They lag behind your consciousness. So do not wait for them to confirm your belief. Know this deeply. When you embody the miracle, the world will eventually conform. It has no choice. Reality reshapes itself around the identity you choose to inhabit. If you want different circumstances, you must first become someone for whom those circumstances are normal. That is why so many struggle to manifest what they desire. They keep waiting for change on the outside before allowing change on the inside. But it doesn't work that way. The miracle is not a reward, it is a reflection of the inner state you consistently live in. Even when no one is watching, even when everything outside tries to tell you otherwise. Let this be your new way of walking through life. Ask yourself not what you want, but who you would be if you already had it. And then become that person. Breathe like them, speak like them, think like them, love like them, give like them, rest like them. It may feel unfamiliar at first, even foolish, but stay with it. Persist in the assumption, because it is in this persistence that the walls begin to crumble. The old version of you starts to fade and the new one takes its place. The moment you dwell in the state of the miracle fulfilled, you are no longer in need, you are in possession. You are not empty, you are full. And in that fullness there is no room for fear. Fear belongs to the one who waits, but faith belongs to the one who knows. And you must choose. Will you wait for the world to confirm your desire, or will you confirm it yourself by dwelling in its fulfillment right now? To embody the state is to make the invisible feel more real than what your eyes can see. It is to see with the eyes of spirit, not flesh. It is to choose your focus so deliberately that the world has no choice but to catch up. Your world is your mirror, and it cannot reflect a reality that you have not first imagined and accepted as true. So today, walk as though you are already healed, already successful, already blessed, already chosen. Do not visit the state. Live in it. Let your inner speech declare it. Let your reactions reflect it. Let your habits align with it. Because once you dwell in the state of the fulfilled miracle, the world is already rearranging itself in your favor. You are not attracting from lack. You are calling forth what you already possess in the unseen. And nothing, no condition, no person, no delay can keep it from you when you have claimed it within. To radiate the frequency of unshakable faith is to become a living signal that draws the miraculous toward you. Faith is not a passive belief, nor is it a momentary emotional high. It is a sustained, quiet conviction that refuses to be moved by appearances. When everything in the external world looks barren, when nothing around you gives you reason to believe, it is then the true faith must rise. It does not lean on facts, it creates them. It does not wait for conditions, it commands them. Faith is not loud, it is not anxious, it does not beg. Faith walks calmly through the storm, already soaked in the certainty of the sun. When you carry unshakable faith, you are no longer reacting to life, you are generating life. You become the origin point, the center, and from you all things flow. What you hold in consciousness begins to shape itself around you. That is the nature of reality. It obeys the dominant vibration of your belief, not the fleeting moments of your hope. This frequency of unshakable faith must be embodied. You cannot fake it. You cannot simply recite affirmations while holding doubt in your heart. The universe listens not to your words, but to your state. What are you dwelling in, moment to moment? What energy are you saturating your thoughts with? Are you living in fear disguised as logic? Or are you dwelling in certainty that dares to declare, "It is done"? To radiate faith is to no longer discuss your problems from the place of defeat. You do not speak of what's missing, you speak from the place where it is already yours. This requires discipline, not of behavior alone, but of identity. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you in the stillness of your mind? That is where the signal is set. That is where the miracle begins. The world cannot override your frequency. It can try to distract, it can try to tempt you into fear, but it cannot override you unless you submit. And when you radiate unshakable faith, You are immovable. Not because you are pretending that nothing is wrong, but because you know something greater is already at work. You trust the invisible far more than you fear the visible. You lean into the unseen with more confidence than you respond to what is currently seen. This faith becomes your protection. It becomes your guidance system. You begin to feel when you are slipping out of alignment, when worry creeps in, when fear begins to speak in your mind, and you don't entertain it anymore. You recognize that fear has no wisdom. It only offers illusions, illusions of lack, of delay, of danger. But faith cuts through those illusions like light through shadow. It doesn't argue, it doesn't prove, it knows. There is a peace that comes with living from faith. Not the peace of inactivity, but the peace of right alignment. When you are in the frequency of faith, you no longer panic about what step to take next. You no longer question if you're doing enough, being enough, trying hard enough. You know that what is yours is on its way, not because you're trying to earn it, but because you have already aligned with it. Faith is the magnet. It is the energy that reshapes the entire field of possibility around you. Others will look at you and wonder how you can be so calm, so composed, so certain in the face of challenge. They will ask how you continue to believe when everything looks broken. And your answer will not be found in complicated philosophy. It will be found in the quiet assurance that lives within your spirit. I know because I have already seen it in my mind. I know because I live there now. I know because I do not need proof. I am the proof. To hold faith in a world addicted to doubt is the most radical thing you can do. It separates you from the crowd. It elevates your perception. It transforms your expectations. And the world will eventually rise to meet those expectations, not because of luck, but because of law. The law responds to faith the way seeds respond to soil. Plant it, water it with consistency, and the harvest is inevitable. This does not mean you will never feel fear. It means you will no longer be ruled by it. You will see fear for what it is, the final test before the breakthrough, the shadow that precedes the dawn, and you will choose over and over to return to faith, not by force, but by remembering who you truly are. You are not a beggar. You are not a victim. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are a co-creator. You are a magnet to the miraculous. And your frequency is your signature. Your life does not change when the world changes. Your life changes when you change your frequency. When you stop vibrating with worry, when you stop carrying the energy of lack, when you stop speaking from the vibration of not enough. You cannot manifest abundance from a state of need. You cannot call in love while vibrating in unworthiness. You cannot expect miracles while embodying misery. What you radiate returns. So what will you radiate today? Will you meet your morning with worry or with gratitude that the miracle is already unfolding? Will you speak as someone lost or someone led? Will you think from the problem or from the promise? These choices are not small. They are the building blocks of your reality. Each one fine-tunes your frequency. Each one signals the invisible forces around you that you are ready or not. Unshakable faith is not arrogant. It is not loud. It is not attention-seeking. It is steady, quiet, bold. It moves in silence and manifests in power. When you truly radiate it, you don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to explain yourself. Your results will speak. Your transformation will be your testimony. And those who once doubted will ask how you did it. And the answer will always return to this: I believe before it came. I aligned before it appeared. I was before I saw. He said, expand point, 3 up to 1,000 words without headings. ChatGPT said, to detach from the how and trust the unseen bridge is to release the reins of control and step fully into the power of surrender. Most people fail to realize their desires not because they lack vision, but because they cling so tightly to the process. They demand answers, step-by-step instructions, visible paths, and immediate clarity. But the unseen does not operate under the constraints of logic. The miracle does not obey the narrow route the mind has constructed. It carves its own way, often silently, invisibly, and without explanation. When you plant a seed in the soil, you do not sit and question every day how the roots are forming beneath the surface. You do not yell at the soil demanding it show you signs of progress. You trust the process. You water it, give it light, and wait in confidence. Why then do we not treat our desires the same way? Why do we try to force doors open, manipulate outcomes, or stress about the details we cannot see? The bridge of incidents that will carry you from where you are to where you desire to be is not your responsibility to build. It is your responsibility to believe. And belief does not demand clarity. It demands trust. It does not require proof. It requires inner alignment. The more you try to control the how, the more you signal to the universe that you do not trust its intelligence. And in that lack of trust, you cut yourself off from the very forces designed to help you. When you declare your desire, when you dwell in the feeling of its fulfillment, the wheels of the unseen begin to turn. People are moved. Events are arranged, conversations are sparked, opportunities are crafted, all in response to your inner state. But you may not see any of it until the moment of revelation. And that is where so many abandon the process. Because they cannot see movement, they assume nothing is happening. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You are not here to push the current. You are here to align with the flow. And that alignment begins when you stop asking, how will it happen? And start affirming it is already on the way. This posture of trust removes the weight from your shoulders. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to control every variable. You don't have to chase or beg or manipulate. You simply have to live in gratitude before evidence appears is to step into the highest form of spiritual alignment. Gratitude is not merely an emotional response to a gift already received. It is the key that unlocks unseen doors. It is the declaration that what is unseen is already real, that what has not yet arrived is already yours in essence. When you give thanks for the miracle before it materializes, you prove that you understand how reality is shaped. Not by sight, but by belief. Most people reserve their gratitude for after something happens. They wait for conditions to change, for things to go their way, for desires to be fulfilled, and then they say, now I am thankful. But that is backward. Gratitude must come first. Gratitude is not the result of a fulfilled life. It is the cause of one. To express gratitude in advance is to act from the assumption that you already dwell in the answered prayer. It is to signal with your entire being, I know it's done. This energy cannot be faked. You cannot pretend to be thankful for what you secretly doubt will happen. The mind may repeat words, but the heart must align with the truth. The feeling must be genuine. And so gratitude becomes a practice, a deliberate returning to the inner place where your desire is already fulfilled. You do not thank from the place of hoping. You thank from the place of knowing. This is the great secret. When you begin your day with gratitude for what has not yet appeared, you draw it closer. You close the gap between desire and manifestation. Because the moment you feel grateful, you are no longer separate from your desire, you are one with it. You are no longer longing, you are receiving. You are no longer in lack, you are in abundance. This shift is subtle, but it is the very hinge upon which miracles swing. The world may not understand this way of being. It will call you unrealistic. It will accuse you of being delusional. But remember, the world does not create your future, you do. And you create it through what you accept as real. Gratitude in advance is not about tricking the universe. It is about revealing to yourself what you already believe. It is the outer sign of an inner conviction, a sacred conversation between you and the unseen forces that govern creation. This is why gratitude must not be conditional. If you wait until things go your way, you are not practicing faith. You are practicing reaction. Faith says, I will rejoice now because I know it is already mine. Faith says, I give thanks not because I see it, but because I feel it. This level of gratitude changes you. It changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you think. And in that shift, you become a match for the reality you seek. Gratitude in advance is also a form of humility. It acknowledges that you are not doing this alone. It recognizes the unseen intelligence orchestrating details beyond your comprehension. When you give thanks before the door opens, you are honoring the process. You are surrendering the how while celebrating the certainty of the outcome. You are no longer begging, you are aligning. This posture transforms your energy. People feel it. Circumstances respond to it. Life bends to meet it. Because gratitude is not passive, it is one of the most active forces you can release into the world. It multiplies what it touches. It energizes your spirit. It awakens your inner magnetism. When you are genuinely grateful, you shift from waiting to receiving. You step out of time and into eternity, into the now where all things are possible. This practice does not require a specific ritual, it requires a state. You can feel this gratitude while walking down the street, while brushing your teeth, while falling asleep. You can carry it into every moment until it becomes your natural state. And when it does, miracles no longer feel like interruptions. They feel like the most logical next step, because you have been living with them in spirit all along. There may be days when the evidence seems far away, when doubts whisper and fears rise. On those days, return to gratitude, not because you need to force the miracle, but because you need to remember who you are. You are not one who waits in despair. You are one who expects with joy. Gratitude brings you back to that truth. It reminds you that nothing is out of reach, that everything is unfolding even now. Do not underestimate the power of saying thank you when your hands are still empty. That moment, perhaps more than any other, reveals the depth of your trust. Anyone can be grateful for what they see, but to be grateful before it appears, that is the sign of a creator. That is the mark of one who has stepped beyond the illusion of separation and into the unity of already having. So begin now. Not tomorrow, not after something shifts. Begin now. Feel it, say it, live it. Thank the universe for the healing, even if the pain still lingers. Thank the universe for the abundance, even if the bills are still due. Thank the universe for the love, even if you sleep alone. Because in your gratitude, you become the space where the miracle lands. You become the fertile ground where the invisible takes form. You become the embodiment of the very thing you once thought you had to chase. Gratitude in advance is the language of creation. It is the sacred echo of a soul that already knows the outcome. And when you live from that knowing, there is nothing you cannot bring into form. To transform your daily actions to match the reality you desire is to begin living as if your miracle has already arrived, not just in thought, not just in feeling, but in behavior. The universe does not simply respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. And who you are is revealed not by what you say you believe, but by how you move through your day, by the choices you make, the habits you keep, the words you speak, the tone in your voice, and the posture of your being. If you say you believe that a miracle is on its way, yet live as if nothing is changing, then the message you are broadcasting is one of contradiction. Desire without action is just a wish, and while imagination is the birthplace of all creation, it must be followed by embodiment. It must be supported by a lifestyle that affirms the truth you claim to believe. You cannot declare abundance and then act from lack. You cannot affirm healing and then behave like someone still broken. You cannot call in love and then carry the energy of loneliness. There must be congruence. Your actions must not betray your vision. To act in alignment is not about forcing things. It's about becoming the version of yourself that naturally attracts the life you want. If you were already living in your desired reality, how would you carry yourself? How would you dress? How would you speak to others? How would you start your morning? How would you spend your time? These are not superficial questions. These are the bridges that connect the inner and the outer, and every small decision becomes a vote for the future you say you're creating. Transformation doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in the invisible rituals you repeat every day. The way you talk to yourself when you first wake up, the way you respond to challenges, the way you treat your body, your space, your relationships. If you want to be the magnet to miracles, you must live as one who is already blessed, not because you're pretending, but because you know that reality bends to those who are bold enough to act in advance. When you behave as if the miracle has already occurred, you shift your energy. And this shift becomes undeniable. People feel it, circumstances align with it. Life begins to mirror the energy you carry. This is not magic, it's structure. Everything in your life reflects what you have embodied. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. And what you are is revealed in what you do repeatedly. This is where many fall short. They have the vision, they speak the words, but their actions remain tied to the old identity. They still cling to habits formed in fear. They still speak from wounds that haven't been released. They still make choices based on lack. And then they wonder why the miracle delays. But the miracle is never far. It is waiting for the version of you that is ready to receive it. And you become that version not by wishing harder, but by living differently. You cannot keep living in the vibration of the past and expect the future to arrive. You must release the behaviors that no longer belong to you. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Every action carries energy. Every decision is a declaration. When you choose to align your behavior with your belief, you become unstoppable. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer working against yourself. Ask yourself daily, are my actions today aligned with the life I say I want? If I say I am healed, am I treating my body with reverence? If I say I am abundant, am I giving, saving, investing, and living with confidence? If I say I am loved, am I speaking to myself and others with compassion and openness? The answers to these questions will reveal the level of alignment you hold. And when you become aware, you gain the power to shift. This is not about faking it. It's about activating it. The version of you who already lives in the miracle exists now. They are not a distant future self. They are a present possibility. And every time you act from that place, you call them forward. You make space for them. You give them the wheel. And life will follow their lead. The world does not need to confirm your new reality for it to be real. You must act as if it's already true, and eventually it will be. This is how the invisible becomes visible. This is how energy becomes matter. The world does not change so that you can change. You change, and then the world catches up. You may not always feel ready. You may feel like a fraud at times. But remember, your actions are not just reflections of your reality. They are tools to shape it. When you step into the role, you give the universe permission to deliver the script. And what felt once far away begins to show up in the most unexpected ways. This is the path of power, to live each moment as if what you ask for is already yours, to take steps, make moves, Set boundaries, open doors, not from desperation, but from identity. When you walk in the knowing that you are chosen, favored, guided, blessed, then your actions will become more than routines. They will become declarations of faith. The miracle does not arrive when you beg for it. It arrives when you become the version of yourself who already has it. And that version is formed in the fire of your daily choices. So show up differently, speak differently, move differently, not because you're forcing the future, but because you know it's already yours. And that knowing is the most powerful act of all.